Hi, Joe. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent.
This looks so neat. Did you use different typeface this one? Yes. It looks beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
You noticed.
I noticed those.
You noticed our response update. We're using a nice font. I wasn't going to say anything.
I noticed it too. You administrative.
Right. Professional bit of mine.
All right. What time are we at? Oh, we're right at 10. Let me get my coffee. Okay, I'll be right back.
Oh, I've been fine. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Yes.
You're way too tall for me, so I gotta think.
These chairs get a little crack in top.
Yeah.
There.
Way up.
He's on his tiptoes.
That's what if I sit up, I might be able to help you. All right, now I'm in. Where's done?
Calling the meeting to order, the November the 10th Civil Service Commission meeting. It is now 10 o'clock a.m. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement. Today, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Squamish people, past and present, and on never credit to the land itself and the Squamish tribe. We are here to do the work of the Seattle Civil Service Commission, whose responsibility is to ensure that Seattle's city's workforce reflects the shared values of this community, respect the indigenous people, and committed to holding each other accountable. I also would like to add that tomorrow's Veterans Day, and we'll take a few seconds in silence for each one here to remember those in the past, present, and those who are also serving now. We'll just take 30 seconds and you can acknowledge that in your own way. Okay, our next order of business with introductions. I'll start with myself. I am Commissioner Caesar, Chair of the Commission.
Denise Wells, Commissioner. Mary Wyman Williams, Commissioner, Mayor of Twenty.
Oh, I'm Andrea Shealy. I'm the Executive Director.
Sarah Butler, Operations and Policy Advisor.
Teresa Jacobs, Executive Assistant.
And Joe Levan in the City Attorney's Office, Assistant City Attorney, and I'm the legal counsel for the commission.
Everyone. Next order of business will be the approval of the minutes that was distributed to all the commissioners. The October the 6th, 2025 minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the October the 6th, 2025 Civil Service Commission minutes, say aye.
Aye. And I abstained because I was not in attendance at that meeting.
We have two members. We have two commission members who approved the minutes. That's the majority, and the minutes are approved. Next order of business will be updates and discussions that will be presented by Director of the Civil Service Commission, Michelle.
Yes, thank you, Chair Caesar. Thank you all for being here. It's such a delight to be here with you in person. and for you to be online, Joe. But Joe, we see you here quite a bit. We've been really busy this month. We have done a lot of work. You'll be seeing some changes here in our hearing room soon. We've been working on some final pieces related to our reorganization and outfitting our office. So we'll have some new furniture in here. We're getting a little electrical work done, that sort of logistical items we've been paying some attention to. Our public safety exams unit has really launched headfirst into their promotional exams development for 2026. Doing quite a bit of work there and finishing up, heading into the fireboat engineer publishing of the register in December. As for, so we're also watching, with close attention, the city and municipal elections. Don't know what will change there, but we're likely to have some different committee chairs in 2026 I'll give you a quick update on the new commissioner appointment for civil service. We do have, I believe it's 5 applicants for that position. And so we are waiting to find out who wins. It's a mayoral appointment to replace the beloved Commissioner Wyman Williams, 6 years now. And we'll be recognizing you in the next meeting in December. In any case, we have 5 applicants, and we're waiting to find out who will be the mayor-elect, because that person will be able to do the appointment for the next civil service commissioner. And we are grateful for Commissioner Wyman Williams for continuing to serve until that appointment is made. All right,
I do have a question.
Sure.
So, given the lingering election results and mayor-elect, timeline-wise, it looks like that mayoral appointment probably won't come before the end of the year. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, if it is Mayor Harrell, he could make that appointment at any time. But if it is going to be Katie Wilson, then I believe she would have to wait until after the first of the year.
Yeah.
And
I have to wait till after it's sworn in.
Yes, and I don't know, I've never spoken with her, so I don't know what where it would be on her priority, but we would certainly work hard to get that decision in front of her. All right. Our budget report for November is here in your packets, the document in blue and green. The big picture is that this shows that we are 21.3% of budget available before encumbrances, 78% spent before encumbrances. That's going to change a little bit because we're getting some reimbursements from other departments, Seattle Police and Fire Departments, back into our budget. So there's actually is going to be adjusted. That it is a slightly lower amount spent, but I think we'll end the year close to, we will have some underspend, but we had an open position, a vacancy for part of the year. So I think we will end up underspending our budget, and we have entered most of our consultant contracts for the public safety exams unit already, and so funds will be encumbered from 2025 going into 2026. We'll talk a little bit more. We won't talk more about the budget necessarily in our look back, but one of the things about 2025, is that we've had a big reorganization. This much larger budget came into the Civ department budget and managed by us, of course, but we lost a little bit of our finance support when the team was over in SDHR. And so we've had to build that muscle during this year, especially me and Public Safety Exams Manager Mike Nelson. So I think we're doing great, but we're learning about this budget and how it's spent. And I think it will probably take probably 3 years of this budget going through to really see how we spend throughout the year. nothing has changed. Actually, yes, things have changed about the public safety exams unit budget. We're doing yearly firefighter. We also did a one-off lateral firefighter paramedic exam in the early part of this year. And so things are coming in and out of our budget. It's not a huge budget for the city of Seattle, but it is a much larger budget for our department. And so doing a lot of learning, but it's, you know, and doing our best and I think achieving it to be good stewards of public money, but it'll just take some time, a couple of cycles through to see how this goes. We also going way into the details here, but we do a lot of our promotional exams, all of our promotional exams on an every other year basis. And so the costs are different. It's not always, you probably remember this, Mary, from your time overseeing that unit. It's not the same budget every single year because it's not the same exams every other year.
But this 2.8 adopted budget covers everything, including the testing.
Yes, but we've gone from approximately a $1 million budget to 3. But the bottom line is we are definitely spending well within our allocated budget, and I don't expect any surprises at the end of the year. Engaging in those end of year processes, I think I spoke to the 2026 budget at our last meeting. So that work is well underway, and I'm happy to answer any questions though. All right. I'll head to the case status report next. The appeal that you all were planning to hear is Brown v. Park, CSC number 2501005A. And you all know by now that the parties did come to a resolution in that case. The materials are still being gathered. There was some discussion I saw even just the other day about the settlement agreement. So the parties are still providing us their materials, and you'll see those in your next month's packet, I expect. But congratulations to those parties to coming to a mutual agreement. And we'll be dismissing the appeal. And we still want to do the training for commissioners, but we decided to, instead of holding while Commissioner Wyman-Williams was still serving, to postpone it to next year. We can start the year off with our new commissioner and include them in that learning. Makes sense. And thank you, Joe, for your support and your work on that training.
You're welcome.
All right. Any questions I can answer for you at this point?
And there's nothing else pending, nothing we've got.
No other things. All right. Well, then we will launch into, every year we like to take a look back at this year and share with you and members of the public who might be interested, kind of some of our highlights and just some of our ongoing work. And so Sarah and I are gonna kind of share this presentation. I'm ready for you to pop it up on the screen. I think maybe you have to give Sarah permission to put that up there. There we go. I occasionally do this at the joint meeting, but I've kind of split it into the 2 different meetings because you all have a bunch of things to work on at the joint meeting. We are limited for time. So here we go. You'll probably recognize this image, although I have updated it a little bit since the reorganization of the unit, but we like to start out at the high end of the funnel and talk just about the functions of the 2 civil service commissions. I won't go into them, but because you're aware, but the Civil Service Commission, you all hear disciplinary appeals, investigate political influence in hiring, and make recommendations to the city council and the mayor when you feel that it is appropriate. Public safety civil service has an additional duty where they oversee development and administration of civil service exams for the fire and police departments. And they're overseeing a different system, the public safety civil service system, of course. The things that you 2 commissions have in common are really those merit principles that we set out in the city charter, but fair, merit-based civil service systems for city employees. They have a place to go when they feel that the city may not be following its own rules for civil service. This is just obviously an org chart showing showing what our organization looks like. We've gone from 2 to 3 to 10 staff. So we've grown quite a bit in the past couple of years. And I feel like we may be at or approaching the right number of staff for the amount of work that we have to do. So I'm really proud of that. "2025, and Sarah and Teresa, feel free to jump in here. We've done a lot of work together, and I'm really proud of the work we've done together in 2025 and the rest of the staff who's not here today. But I called 2025 our learning year. I just spoke a little bit earlier about the budget and how the budget has grown, staff has grown. We're working together in this space, and we have some new personnel, some new responsibilities. One of the challenges has been, the folks coming over from SHR, where I think they weren't even aware, and I certainly wasn't aware of how much support they had over in that department. And so we have had to learn that and do some skill building, and also reach out to our supports around the city, finance, budget. Those are sort of the main areas. But also with more people come more, questions and conversations for HR. So I'm really appreciative to our partners around the city and they really are so fantastic. And those are members of our civil service system. But Mike Nelson joined us. This has been an opportunity to take a look at how we're doing things. Does it work? This is an opportunity to change things that don't work, improve the things that were already working, and we'll continue that work, of course, into the future. But we always have high standards for our work. We have our legal obligations, and that's, of course, just the floor, but doing the very best we can for the employees in the public safety and the civil service systems. And really, that's for the public in the city of Seattle. It's been a big year of firefighter testing. Of course, we went to the annual exam, which is an incredible body of work. We had a position added in 2025 to make sure that we were able to do that work, and we did a search and promoted an internal employee, Phoebe Mogan, and now she's charged with that work and some promotional exams too. She's become a senior exams analyst. So applications are open right now. If you know any people who are interested in becoming a Seattle firefighter, they're open till November 24th. But it's a huge endeavor, and I'm sure I've spoken about it before, but we have over 100 people who work as assessors for those exams. We rent out a conference center down by the airport for, I think it's about 2.5 weeks, along with 10 guest rooms that we remove all the furniture, they remove the furniture from, and that's where they do the assessments. We run, it's approximately 1,500 people, between 1,000 and 1,500 candidates come to Seattle or live in Seattle, but come up and show up in their suits and interview to be a Seattle firefighter. It's an incredible process. And we also, not just firefighters work as assessors, but we have employees from all around the city who their departments support their work to help us have a civilian lens and an additional equity lens. We really like when we can get folks who are members of change teams and have that additional focus. We all center racial equity in the city of Seattle in our work, but they have that additional training and focus. So it's really an incredible endeavor. We did in 25, we're going to do it again in 26, we're doing it in 27. As long as the city can afford to and the fire department wants to keep doing it, we'll do it. So the goal though is to provide a fresh and sort of more vibrant register for Seattle Fire Department. When they have a 2-year register, at the end of the 2 years, people have moved on. They're not responding anymore. We want to keep that list fresh for them so that they can continue to hire people in the city of Seattle as firefighters, because it hasn't been as apparent, it hasn't been in the news, but we have a real staffing issue over the Seattle Fire Department. So we're trying to help them meet that need. We also did a one-off, that we did a lateral firefighter exam in 2025. Never done it before in the city of Seattle, but the chief came to us in October, and I consider this a real achievement and partnership between our departments. And we all put our heads together. The fire department was able to provide the funding, and we produced a register in January 2026. And I have to call out our staff members, Yoshiko and Amy Jo Snowberger. Yoshiko Grace Matsui and Amy Jo Snowberger worked so much over the holiday to make this happen with the Seattle Fire Department. And hopefully we'll never have to do it again on that short of notice. But I know that the fire department was really grateful, and they were able to hire, I believe they hired 7 lateral firefighter paramedics because they had an acute need for those who have those qualifications in practice paramedicine. So I won't spend as long as time on every single slide, but those are some really important achievements that I wanted to highlight. The commission also updated the scoring criteria for promotional exams to eliminate a no-fail oral board for promotional exams in the fire department. This is a relic that was negotiated, I think about 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And the fire department, it meant that if you passed the written exam, you couldn't fail the oral board. And it wasn't a huge problem that people weren't trying, but there were folks who weren't necessarily studying for the oral board, so it wasn't providing value for the fire department. And so they asked that we bring that type of exam into line with the rest of our exam and set a minimum score. It's them asking to have a higher standard for their promotional candidates, which we all appreciate, of course, make sure they are qualified for their jobs. And so we did that this year, and we learned some things, and not everybody liked it, but we've held strong, and so is the fire department on having those strong minimum standards for promotion.
Have to be renegotiated.
The union was perfectly, they were happy about it, they supported it. They actually came to support it too. So I think it was really a relic of the past. We also we're planning to publish the fireboat engineer register in December. That's on every 2-year cadence, as is the fire register, which we produced in August 2025. Police officer testing, I probably don't need to tell you that Seattle is hiring police candidates, like it's going out of style at this point. We did make a lot of improvements to our process. What we didn't do was change the test that the commission felt was appropriate for the city of Seattle. But we did make a lot of small improvements to try to decrease any barriers to application, and to get people through the pipeline faster, as fast as they could test. We wanted to get them on the register. So that's part of a really big, broad stakeholder effort to improve Seattle's ability to hire qualified police candidates. But we have a couple of our pieces is that we moved to an open continuous testing model. That's in 2025. We used to produce, when I started this job, we produced registers 4 times a year. We then moved to 7 times a year. And now we're sending registers over to Seattle Police Department 27 times a year, every other week, which has helped them move people through this pipeline more quickly. But it's been a lot of work, but worthy of doing, I certainly think. We also, I think last year we started doing quarterly candidate outreach feedback surveys to folks who apply to be police officers. We've continued that work. Just on November 1st, we exceeded 2024 numbers for the number of folks we sent over to SPD who had passed the civil service exam. So hiring numbers, in 2025 have totally blown up, but I believe they'll be even bigger for 2026. Because the application process and the whole backgrounding and site process, the pre-hire processes, they take several months. And so we often don't see the impacts of these changes and spikes in application resulting in higher numbers for a few months. But it's Seattle Police Department and I think the mayor's office and everybody are pretty satisfied at this point. Yeah, so I think, with the new contract that was just negotiated, I think we'll continue to see those numbers increase and then they'll probably plateau at some point. But hopefully by then Seattle Police will have been able to hire and train and keep enough qualified police officers. So outstanding results there. And here these are just illustrated visually, but you can see what I'm describing. We had 2 promotional registers that we produced for police department in 2025. That was the police lieutenant register, which was scheduled to be published in August, but Seattle Police Department exhausted the names on the list. They promoted everybody on the previous list. And we were asked us early enough, so we were able to produce that register early for them in June of 2025 rather than August. So we like when we're able to do that. We're not always able to do it. It's partially communication. A couple conditions have to exist, but we were able to do it this year. And then we also, that team also produced a police captain register in August, which is 17 eligible. It's not a huge number, but they're building back up. They're building their staff back up. Sarah, I'm gonna turn to you for this page because this is mostly you.
Sure. So did a lot of work this year around digital engagement or continuing to build that up. There were, I think I've already spoken about website redesigns, kind of prompted by an IT initiative, but was helpful for us to kind of organize and repackage in an accessible way. So website redesigns for both commissions, created a new department page with landing where folks can land, and then find each commission, and that's in a directory, and in our department directory it's much easier to find us if you're searching as an employee. Fire exam staff appeared on CFFCD's Fire Connect podcast. And police exam staff also participated in workshops for police officer candidates with SPD.
Yeah, we try to work with those departments to do their outreach to applicants, especially entry level folks who are just out in the world, because the civil service testing and application process is new to most people, and so we like to give people as much information as we can about what that might look like so that they can be successful. So that's some of the efforts that are focused.
And then there was an in-person outreach event with SDOT employees that I've spoken about before this year. So.
Can I ask about that, since that's really our purview?
Yes.
CSC employees. So can you talk a little bit about that outreach effort, kind of what it contained, and what kind of questions you got or feedback you got from those you presented to?
Yeah, so that was a tabling event during like an all SDOT employee day together. It was at Seattle Center. And it was really just sort of a presence. We're here, this is what we do. I had some like one pagers so that they could read about it, but they could just ask, and I had sort of a little 10-second pitch for employees. So it was actually really educational for me to meet with other departments and outreach teams and kind of see how it's approaching.
Yeah, I've just been thinking about it since we had the conversation about just outreach ideas, and 90% of your work and the presentation we're here today, and, obviously is police and fire, which is not really our purview, but it's helpful to kind of get a sense of the efforts and the workload in general. And I'm curious about how much capacity that leaves for additional outreach for CSC. Tabling, is, certainly an opportunity, but just curious about anything else going on.
Yeah, and I think it'll be later in this presentation, but we did have some educational events here around revisits. It's kind of work, but the in-person is still kind of a puzzle that I'm working on.
Yeah, there's not as much in person for sure. Yeah, and there are also civil service employees, of course, at Seattle Police Department and Seattle Fire Department.
Right.
Yeah, so this is, I'm pretty obvious, but we were lucky to welcome Anaya Mays to the Public Safety Civil Service Commission. She started in January 2025. Thevia Mogan, who's on the right of those two employees, is the internal employee who was promoted to be a senior exams analyst. And Emily Winslow on the left just joined us in September, and she is our new exams analyst. They're both obviously fantastic. Annika Peterson joined us over the summer as our graduate intern. She did some projects related to the standard of proof and veterans preference in public safety civil service. She was a really delightful, smart, politically active student to have come with us, and she really, I think, energized us a lot too, because we got out into some field trips with her, which were really fun team building exercises for our team as well. I don't know if you've ever had her in one of your classes in school.
She undergrad.
No, she's graduate student.
I mean,
Monica
but yeah,
Peterson.
names, yeah, probably not because I do the executive MPA.
Oh, sure.
I did guest lecture. It's not the undergrad, the regular MPA.
Uh-huh.
So I may have been.
That's what you get the executive program. Great. So we had many open public meetings. We already talked about the disciplinary appeal training, which we'll do in early 2026 for this commission. We did our required trainings on the OPMA and the Public Records Act. And this commission had a lot of guest speakers this year. I hope that was helpful and interesting for you all. We had folks from the Office of Employee Ombudsman, that's Emma Fan. We had Irania Bartolome from the Department of Human Resources. We had Mike Chin from the Office for Civil Rights. And Seattle Police and Fire Departments had some guest speakers as well. Irania was here with us a few months ago, has actually gone over in an interim role to the Seattle Fire Department to be the new interim HR director there. So we're happy to be working with him in that new capacity, at least for a while. And the commission, the PSCSC commission had a spring retreat where they worked on some rulemaking and other topics. And we were going to have our training/retreat today here for you all, but as I said, we postponed that. I've talked a lot about exams, but you're right, it is a major body of work that we have. So yeah, numbers are very high for applications, which is great news for the city of Seattle. And yep, this is just giving some information about our publishing of registers, which is our main work product for public safety. CSC only had the one appeal. Was that Mr. Brown's appeal, or was that a different appeal? Brown. That was the Brown appeal. And Public Safety Civil Service had 9. Do you want to add on to the?
Yeah, I there's field a lot of questions around and some interest in making an appeal. 2 of them were actually appeals submitted that were premature. They need to go to the grievance process first, and others were just employees looking for more information about some service feelings.
Yeah, I think that, Mary, you and I talked about this many times over the years, but I don't think the employee grievance process is not intuitive. It's not easy to find. And before Irania went over to Seattle Fire Department, he and Sarah were working on how to make it easier for employees. I don't think we could change the process, but we could try to communicate it better. So we'll need to see who ends up doing that body of work in Irania's role.
Yeah, because, looking at the numbers, you can make certain assumptions, and, the most respectful interpretation is that issues are being resolved at a lower level, so they're not having to appeal to CSC, but there could be other possibilities, such as people don't understand the process or don't exercise their right because they aren't aware of it. So you're right, it's a puzzle we don't know the answer to.
Yeah, and Sarah did some work earlier this year, working with all of the departments to make sure that their notifications that go to employees are uniform and correct. So yeah, it is a bit of a mystery, and maybe we can dig into that. There's also been, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but there's also been more unionization, more organization of the city in the past 5 years. So, I mean, it would be interesting for us to look at the overlap of who is in the union and has that grievance process available to them and who doesn't. Maybe really focus our efforts on those people who do not have a union grievance available if they were subject to serious discipline. Part of our regular work is, and that keeps us busy, keeps Teresa and I very busy, is just sort of processing, evaluating, issuing certifications for promotional entry consideration. We get a lot of requests on the police and fire side for probationary extensions for folks who've not, when folks are on leave or something like that, for longer than 2 weeks, we'll extend their probation for that commensurate period of time. So they're able to serve that entire probationary period. Request for reinstatement, this is all CSC stuff. Folks do leave and can request to come back. And for both commissions, we are CC'd on and we track discipline. Serious discipline, not minor discipline. So we continue to receive those, and that's the kind of information that we'll be issuing another annual report in 2026.
You receive those from departments? Is it it's kind of a aggregated report across departments, or is it
CC'd on they're supposed to CC us on the lateral, the disciplinary notice.
There's no like summary report that shows trends or types of discipline or anything?
No,
As far as we know, we are the only.
Yeah, so I guess now that we've done last year, kind of look under the years. But I also feel like there's sort of an education building around that the departments needed to be reminded. I want to be sure that we capture everything.
Yeah, there's really no way for us to be sure we are capturing everything. But yeah, that's some of the work that was done by Sarah did earlier this year and last year. And when there's turnover in the HR function too, it's sort of, you're constantly going back and educating, which we're of course happy to do. But I guess it's hard to say what kind of compliance we get from the reporting. I hope that it's high, because STHR does not collect this data. As far as we know, only we do.
Because they're not interested, or why?
I don't know.
Well, you would think that it would be more important, given that there's all this effort with the ombuds role and all of that, to be able to see how the return on investment, for all these supports for employees and what the outcomes of those are. And you can't do that without data. You can't do that without trends and what kinds of discipline. And I think the fact that CSC is collecting that data at the very least is helpful for this commission, so that because in your very first slide you're talking about the roles, like how will we know if there's inappropriate stuff going on that we need to take actions around. So.
Yeah, I mean, just in my 6 years, and again, it's always been the case that departments are supposed to notify us of serious discipline for a civil service employee when it occurs. But in my 6 years, I would say I've seen a downward trend on serious discipline, and OEO may be, I mean, they do high volume conflict resolution. And so that may be a really powerful.
Yeah, so I'm saying, you can interpret it that that's paying off, and how do you know that without some sort of data? So I appreciate the fact that there's at least an effort in this office to collect that data.
We'll keep herding those cats, those departmental cats. You want to speak to this one?
Sure. Training and outreach. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. We had subject matter experts from other departments present here and talk about employee conflict resolution options and processes, as well as civil service and city hiring processes. So the grievance process, and then Annie presented on her compliance role on hiring. I provided trainings to city HR staff on civil service fundamentals. Just looked at which departments those were. It was SHR, SPU, and then there's a recruiter roundtable. So those are recruiters from across the city.
And the CARES department.
That was those were this year. Put together some FAQs on the grievance process with Irene Doe. Those are now on both websites, so they're over at SHR for employees to find. They include a form, employees with a concrete list of things that they need to provide. So those are out there. Talked about the trade show tabling I did, and then digital engagement around the websites and LinkedIn. Those are the two.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say that the one, so equity, we are dealing with relatively small numbers of appellants in the civil service. And so like the main way that we try to ensure that there is equity in our civil service processes is through ensuring that our processes are accessible. And by that, I want them to be understandable and employees can easily avail themselves of them. And so that's been our North Star for equity in civil service for some time. And, I want to call out the work of Commissioner Wyman-Williams and Angelique Davis and Amy Bonfrisco, who did a lot of that work, thinking through a lot of that work, and you all are carrying it forward several years ago. We also regularly meet. So one of the ways that we want to be accessible is that we regularly get together with other, call them like conflict resolution resources in the city of Seattle. So the Human Resources Investigations Unit, the Office of Ethics and Elections, and the Office of Employee Ombudsman. We meet regularly with them. And we do internal referrals. We're always telling employees about all of these other resources that they can access to try to help solve their problems. So that's one more way that we try to ensure equity in our work. And collaborating with city partners, including change teams. When we have a project, we try to pull in folks from across the city who have relevant knowledge or experience to try to give us those perspectives on the projects that we're working on. Yeah, I can think. SOCR is always an available and willing resource for us, and the SHR change team, we lean on them too because they're greater in numbers, and we have some folks on our team who used to be on that change team before they transferred departments, but also to get, I haven't said this out loud before, but I kind of think of them as our change team too. We need a red, we're going to call them and ask them to help us. For public safety, and Commissioner Caesar, you asked me some questions about this the other day. We'll rely on those same partners across the city to give us advice and perspective on our work. But there are more ways that we try to ensure equity in that exams function, and it's really important to us. Of course, it is of course the law. That we have to make sure that there's no discriminatory impact in that work. That our exams, for instance, don't have a discriminatory outcome, adverse impact. But we try to build, we don't just try, we do it. We build equity into the process through content. We put, I don't know how to describe it, but in our bibliographies, we make sure that not just the materials that are coming from the department, bibliographies of the set of materials that candidates are going to study and be tested on. So those departments have materials in their sort of like libraries or their operating guidelines that are City of Seattle policies, but we'll bring in texts, like how to be an anti-racist, or a text written about being a transgender person who is also a firefighter. These are just examples. They're going to be different for every exam, but we want to make sure that we bringing the City of Seattle's values of diversity, equity, and inclusion into those exams, and actually making sure that candidates can show that they have those skills and capacities in order to be promoted. If you go to the next slide, this is an example, just one example. We also, throughout our exams, applications and exams processes, are constantly and consistently reviewing our outcomes. So we look at folks identify their gender and racial identities in the NeoGov application process, of course. We use NeoGov for promotional exams as well. Yes, we do. And then we look at the aggregate data of how demographic groups and intersectionally are moving through all of the processes of our exams. So we want to make sure that people are moving through at an equivalent rate so that we can see, for instance, that it's like white people pass the oral board at a much greater rate than any other demographic. And not only we are monitoring that, but our consultants are monitoring that as well so that we can flag it and address it. We see it. So, and then we also report to the commission this data from time to time as well. So this is just for example, and you can see the slideshow more closely if you like. But this is the kind of data we would show to the departments as well as the commission. And I realize it's really tiny here, but it's basically showing. I'll go up and point to it, but this is for the police entry exam. And we only had data at the time. This is from an old presentation, but this is through August 1st, 2025, January to August. So this is the application. This is gender, and this is ethnicity. So this is the rate at which men applied. 83%. We can't do anything about our application numbers, right? That we take all comers for applications if they meet minimum qualifications. But what our job is to make sure that when the register is published, it's not our job. This is just what we evaluate for. Our job is to put out an exam that is appropriate, valid, and test the knowledge, skills, and abilities you need to have for the rank. But what we're looking for is change. This is almost the same as this. It is not a statistically significant difference. And that is what we are looking for to ensure that our exam is not having a discriminatory impact on the group. So men entered the process, applying to be a Seattle police officer, at the same rate they left the process, approximately. There's a little bit of fluctuation. But we do not, we apply the EEOC standards to find out whether or not that fluctuation is significant enough to represent discrimination. This same exam, but this is ethnicity. Green is the group identifying as white. Pink is the group identifying as, I think it's Hispanic, etc. And so, the numbers are here and the data is here, but you can see, hopefully, that generally speaking, the group sizes did not change that much. And we're not just looking at pie charts, of course, we're looking at the actual data and applying the EEOC standards to ensure. But this is just illustrative of the type of work that we do. And this is specifically because Commissioner Caesar asked me these very thoughtful questions a few days ago. And so I wanted to put in the slide to illustrate that.
So again, I can't really see it from here. My charting test fails me. But that black pie is the only one that seems to have a difference in shape
Mhm.
than the others. So what is that represent?
It shows that there's slight differentials between the groups. They change slightly.
But what is the black group?
That is the
That's
people who
black.
identify as Black, yes. Yeah, so there was a slight decrease
Interesting.
relative to the other percentages.
As far as the ones who applied and those who passed, who've got on the register.
Right, and folks, there's other, not minor, but reasons that people, we survey these groups as well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
We do.
What are we finding? Any
People are saying, I got another job, I had a baby, all different reasons. It's really, anecdotal differences.
but nothing thematically has come out to suggest that there's
No, the good news and the takeaway, and this is consistent over time as we evaluate this data, is that we have consistency throughout the exam. We do not see evidence of disparate impact of any gender or race. Those are the two categories we look at.
any
And
disparities grounded in race or gender.
right. I can't remember the sentence I said, but the sentence you said is correct. And so that is the kind of equity analysis we're doing throughout for every phase at which people are, applied, tested, passed, and then they go on the register. And then what happens after the register? We do not measure. That is for the departments. So we don't have higher data, demographic data for either department. That would be the department.
That would be interesting to look at.
It would. Yeah, we
Nor
have-
do you have
we've asked for
recruitment data, because as you said, it's not your job. You take all comers, but it's somebody's job to recruit, do outreach to.
That's right. And if you compare, especially like the gender pie to representation in the community, that's way off. Obviously, it's 50% women have 50% men. So, women are not applying at the same rate as men to be police officers.
But you can't, this is only half the story.
It's
Really?
probably only
A
an
quarter of the story.
Yeah, right, yeah, the story. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, when you don't get down to what's happening in the hiring of all of these people who are on the register, and you don't really know if there's an issue.
you're absolutely. I will tell you that the data that I have seen coming out of Seattle Police Department is that they have a really racially diverse pool of folks that they hire. They have more, I should say, the relative percentage of the folks, at least in 2024, 2023, that they hire relatively fewer white people than are present in our community. So they have a very racially diverse pool of young, new, I don't know how old age-wise, but new officers. Gender, they're working on it 30 by 30. They can speak to that better than I can.
This would be interesting with pie chart to look at for age. What age group are people applying? I would assume it would be more younger, but
I would assume so, but
Also retention.
sure, that's another piece, right? Who passes training, who passes their probationary period. Yeah, we've asked for this data over the years, and I think eventually we'll get there where we're sharing information back and forth easily, but I don't think we haven't really been able to get timely data.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm requesting reappointment as the executive director of the two civil service commissions, and hopefully someone will make a motion to reappoint me in November at our joint meeting. And we're gonna continue doing what we're doing. I'm really excited about the future. I think we have a lot of work that we can do. I'm so excited to have this team in our department. Teresa, I don't know if there's anything you want to add at this point, that you're looking forward to about 2025, or that you're looking back on 2024 through this presentation.
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, Teresa's the person who's holding us all together. Yeah, and you've really taken the lead on getting our physical and team space together. So I really appreciate you.
And that's significant. I mean, that can't be, you know.
It's so much work.
Yeah, don't overlook it like that's huge.
It's so much work, and it's not, it's not like shown to the public, and it's for, of course, our benefit and our function, but it is really important, and it's been a ton of work, and you've done an excellent job, and I know you still are. So yes, we want to become a more resilient organization. We would love to, I feel like we're coming out of a couple of years of huge change, huge turbulence that may continue. External, the United States and the world is a pretty wild place right now, but I would like us to be a solid, consistent presence for the city of Seattle, for our employees. And I think that we are that. I just want to continue to grow and get more firm, build this foundation.
What are you doing to address the resilience and capacity to build it? Or, organization, changing the org chart, bringing people over, the space, all of those pieces. And then so now,
Yeah.
what are you doing to invest in or support that coming together?
Well, I want to continue thinking about it. I want to continue redefining people's roles, not just bringing them, they're in that conversation. We want to make sure people know what is their responsibility and what isn't their responsibility. I think sometimes organizations have a lot of worry because roles aren't clear, decision-making authority isn't clear. What is our North Star? So continue to do that work. We've done some of it this year, but what I won't say I didn't anticipate it, but what became even clearer to me is the change that we made in 2024, 2025 with this reorganization really was significant. I was so excited about it, but there were downsides and challenges for some of our employees to leave a much larger, solid organization. And they are so positive, but it just caused disruption. And so to be able to bring some calm, we have a operations manual that one of our employees is spearheading, Amy Jo Snowberger, and it is, I should have put a screenshot of it on here. It's fantastic. She is so organized. Everybody has their own sort of special superpower and way that they shine. And I really want to help that come through for everybody so that they're doing work not only that they're responsible for, but that they're passionate about. And I think building more outreach and communications, Sarah says it's a puzzle. She's right. We work in a new way now. So it's not like departments are having yearly on sites where they're bringing together all these resources. They're not having it. And so we need to figure out where we fit in for our employees. And there's been a lot, citywide, there's been a lot of tumult. You all know that. There's been talk of layoffs. There have been some layoffs. There's been reorganizations throughout. There might be a new mayor. There might not. I want us to be really visible to our employees and a resource to them. And it's a little hard to talk to people about serious discipline. We're a resource when you're under serious discipline. People don't invite us.
And they're not necessarily interested in it until they're actually needed.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Nobody wants to think that they're ever gonna.
And when you need it, you're not in the best headspace to learn something new. So we do a lot of showing up in different places with different audiences to try to build trust with our HR partners, with our lawmakers, with their legislative staffers, wherever we can to try to. I believe we are credible, but you're not credible unless people know about it. People know who you are. So a lot of that, what's the word? Sort of just steady building of credibility, being here. I actually think the website's a really big deal. And it's a really big deal for our employees too, because I think sometimes people forget that there are employees in this department. You all are important, but the employees are carrying out this work every day. But if you all have advice, I know you'll share it with me. And I can't believe we're gonna lose you, but I won't let you go so easily.
Okay. Need little tweaks, right?
Thinking about our organization, really clarifying our roles, but continuing to support each other. Our team's done a lot of training in the past year, and I want to continue that to the extent we have the resources to do so. But help people grow in their careers, in their skill sets, and just build our partnerships throughout the city. And then public safety, we have a lot of work on that side too. We need to update almost every single classification in the public safety civil service. So we're working with class comp and STHR to try to make that happen. It's quite the challenge to get that work going.
Good one.
I know. It is really tough. Well, they've had so many just rotated cast of management over that function. So it's like starting over every time. We're going to have elections for civil service and public safety civil service in 2026. So that'll be a body of work for us. But also, Commissioner Caesar will need to decide whether he's interested in running for another.
Just next year.
Yeah, to start the 20th. And let's see, a couple rulemakings we've got on our plates for public safety civil service. Of course, our promotional exams. Anyone hop to the next one? Thank you, Sarah. For civil service, same, elections, continue our engagement. And I think it's time for a rules review for civil service. The last time those rules were updated was 2014, and that's a really long time ago. By next year, it will be 12 years without a change to the rules. And we have thought of a lot of areas that could use some work, clarity. So I'm looking forward to that, and that'll be a project for us as well as for you commissioners. Anything else you want to say on that?
No, I think the elections will be a great outreach opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, since there has been so many changes this year, and I believe this is the time that the chairs are working on your performance evaluation, how that process changed. I mean, obviously your role has changed a lot this year.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of changes in your responsibilities, more staff that you're supervising, more money to manage, and all of those things that come with having a bigger staff. How has that impacted the work you're doing with the chairs to get your evaluation done?
Yeah. Would you like to speak to that, Commissioner?
Sure.
Or would you like me to speak to it?
Go ahead.
Oh, sure. Well, I did a self-evaluation, and Mary's been the chair before, so she knows about that process, and it wouldn't be unfamiliar to you. So I did a self-evaluation. And it's a pretty open form. So I talk about highlights, achievements. I do talk in there about the expansion of the work, but also for your all's information, I put in for my position to be reviewed to see whether it's in the correct classification. And I think it should be classified up to an E3, executive 3. So it's an executive 2. Yeah. The last time it was reviewed was in 2020, right after I came in. And it was bumped up it was S2. It should have been SA. It should not have been SA2.
No, I wouldn't think so.
I know. Jennifer.
Oh, what do I know?
Yeah.
Don't even get her started. Don't get me started on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. We can talk about that later. Okay. So it was put at an E2 in 2020, and I actually think I probably should have put in, in early 2025, but I had so much work to do, I didn't. And so I just put it in, and I don't think they're going to get it done on the timeline that they're supposed to, because they are swamped, is what I hear. They haven't even acknowledged it yet.
No.
But I am also asking for a salary increase at this upcoming meeting, and Commissioner Caesar and I talked about that. So I'm talking about multiple things at once. I did my self-evaluation and sat down with Commissioner Green and Commissioner Caesar, and we talked about it a little bit.
And that's all I want. I just want to know what the process was.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you want to talk about what's going to happen?
Please.
Oh,
You bet.
So I hope today I'm gonna send all of the commissioners a list of the things to vote on for November 20th at the joint meeting. But these two chairs are talking amongst themselves. They're doing some outreach to some of our staff to get the feedback about my performance in the past year.
Okay.
And they will, I think, work on a mutual draft.
Yes, we'll work on the picture draft and we'll combine and have a conversation. And
Yeah.
we'll-
At the joint meeting, one of the reasons I took this presentation out of the regular meeting is that you all are, I would like to go into executive session with you first to talk to you about my performance evaluation. You'll have a copy of it in advance of the meeting. So I'd like to talk to you in executive session, answer any questions that you have, and then I'll leave and let y'all talk about my performance. You can't vote in the executive session. It is a permissible reason to go into executive session. Come out and I think you'll have, it's 4 or 5 items to vote on. I can't remember, but I'll put the list together today and send it to you all. And I will say that it's a little bit, I want to do it a little bit differently. Commissioners Green and Caesar were amenable to this. I want to go into the executive session with you, which I haven't before. It's permissible under the law. Because I feel like we can have a little bit better of a conversation, not in an open public meeting.
Right.
And it's hard for me I don't feel like I can say, I haven't in the past felt like I can have a dialogue with y'all in an open public meeting. I'd like to have a little bit more of a dialogue.
Okay, so we're just curious.
Yes.
Apparently, I'm gonna be tasked with this chairperson role next year.
Lucky lady.
Seems.
So my question then is, with the draft, you all will send that to us prior to the meeting. I think what we've tried to do in the past is
At least
we
you
should
should
share with the commissioners, and that way if they have any other feedback. 'Cause I think last year what we learned is that when we stepped out of the room, there were so many questions about what was written that we had to kind of go back. And so it would be, my hope is that we have an opportunity to do that, right, so that we're not first time seeing it and having that conversation. If there's something that we need to make sure we all align with or feel strongly about, that we see that ahead of time. So I know the 20th is coming up really soon, and I don't know where you
Next week.
are with our draft. There he is.
Joe, I don't know whether you have any thoughts on that. I think what I would suggest is that the commissioners, Green and Caesar, maybe send a copy of the document, but not the shared document, because that might violate the Open Public Meetings Act. Joe, I don't know if you have a thought on that.
Yeah, well, I think, so in terms of I think it's better as you suggest, not to use a shared document, but to email it. Because that's also, it can be dealt with in terms of the Public Records Act as well. But yeah, in terms of the commissioners and your consideration of performance and this topic in general, of course, you have to do your business through public meetings, but an executive session it's part of the public meeting, but then you can have a frank and candid discussion with Andrea in executive session, but it's part of the public meeting. So you don't, I guess the point I want to make though is that on the document, you don't want to, it's something you have to discuss it as if there's 2 of you involved in some kind of deliberation or communication about it, then that becomes a public meeting because there's only 3 of you. So it's something you can view, but it's not something that you can discuss except if you do that in a public meeting. So either through the open public meeting or the executive session.
Okay, and I mean, if we have to, so last year, we did have conversation with it in executive session, but it was during the joint.
Right, during the joint meeting.
Mhm. And if that's the way to do it, then that's fine. I guess that's why I'm asking the question. I don't know, are we supposed to give you our thoughts and input prior to what you and the chair are drafting, or was there an intention for us to see it? If not, then that's fine. I'll just, we'll deal with them.
I think,
It seemed like there was a lot of kind of disconnect last time.
There was most definitely, yeah. But I don't think performance evaluations are disclosable anyway. They're exempt, aren't they exempt from public disclosure?
Yes,
Yeah.
but so I guess the key point here is that the document itself, it would be provided to the commissioners on an information only basis. So you wouldn't have communication in writing of two of you being involved in that, because that becomes a public meeting in terms of the OPMA. So, but the executive session, so the executive session is where you discuss what's in the evaluation.
So we can
So
see it ahead of time, we just can't talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's fine.
yeah.
And it is protected from disclosure or exempt from disclosure under the Public Records Act, the document itself, because it's an evaluation.
Right. So sending it to us is not an issue.
It's just that we can't talk about it and ask questions at all until executive session, which is fine.
Exactly. That's really important, right? Because there's, and that's the point about so it could be distributed, but then you talk about an executive session, and then whatever decision you're going to make, you make that decision in open session.
I think
Yeah, although there's no decision on the performance evaluation, there's no vote on the performance evaluation.
But Andrew, you said you have other action items.
Totally, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
those are
Yes.
definitely open to vote.
Yes.
So it sounds like, correct me if I'm paraphrasing you incorrectly, Mary, but it sounds like the commissioners would like to see the performance evaluation a couple of days at least prior to the joint meeting on the 20th. Whether or not it has the chair's input, or do you want to see the chairs? I guess you can't see the chair's input, but you can see what I wrote. You can see what I wrote.
Why can't we see the performance evaluation the chairs put together?
Well,
What's wrong with that?
so far it only has what I wrote, unless they're working on it. I guess I,
that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Once they work on it, they
Can
do
they
the.
can they send what they wrote as long as they're not talking about it?
Yes, it's because again, it has to do with, a little bit confusing here too, because we have two different commissions involved. But so in terms of the Civil Service Commission, if two of you are engaged in a communication outside of a meeting, then that becomes a public meeting. So don't do that. But it can be shared informational only, so that you're not communicating about it, you're just getting it. So just say informational purposes only, do not respond, and then you can view it. And then when you get an executive session, you can talk about it.
But the two chairs having a discussion in order to develop the performance evaluation is not considered a public meeting because they're not
That's right.
not on the same commission.
Exactly.
So they
That-
can
yeah.
meet and they can talk and chat and put it together.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what happened last year is that other people had comments and wanted to change things, and that started happening outside of the meeting. After the meeting was over, there were things that people wanted to edit. There were one.
Well, it
There
was
was-
not only, I think there was a little bit of I think what ended up happening is that, and the reason I'm bringing it up now is because Commissioner Caesar had to answer a lot of questions about why this and what happened here and the perspectives that he put in. I felt like it kind of put you on the spot having to defend stuff. And had we maybe seen it beforehand, it might have, it might have helped the conversation. And then there was a little bit of difference between kind of how each of the chairs were kind of explaining too. So I think part of that is just seeing it ahead of time, not discussing.
It's a lot to do with that.
It's a lot, yeah. And we felt pressured because we were in executive session and it's only, I keep running back saying, oh, we need 10 more minutes,
Yeah.
So just trying to make sure that we have opportunity to digest, or we're not just trying to digest in the moment, pepper them with questions about things.
Okay, so it sounds like what you need and what you all want is to see what you and Richard have drafted. 3-day, it's on a Thursday, so maybe by Monday before the meeting. Something like that. Yeah, you can talk to Richard.
Okay.
And let us know, let me and Teresa or Joe or Sarah know if we can help with anything in terms of delivering documents to people. I know Joe will always be available for questions about the OPMA and PRA. But if there's something we can do, like set up a folder that's shared, we have an aired folder that it's gonna be all Something like
But
that.
or
to make
just
it
small portion, you can just email it to us.
You'd think it would be easy. And then let's do it the same way every year, if it works.
Okay,
That's good. Sounds like that's a nice change.
I gotta leave soon, because I gotta be someplace at noon. But
Oh, I think are we done with our presentation, Sarah?
We can look back at that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Director Shelley, and as well as Sarah and Teresa for your inputs and all the hard work you've done over the past year and that you'll be going over the current year. There's a lot of work ahead of us. Our next order of business, I guess I'll hand it back to you, Director Shelley. We're going to adjourn meeting. Sure.
You know, I think my name was supposed to be on the prior item because I unfortunately was not able to attend the civil service conference this year, but you know, if Sarah and Joe have anything they want to add about that?
The recap, the 44th Annual Civil Service.
Yeah, in terms of my involvement, I just what I do for these conferences is I'll watch the part related to a legal update, and then also there's a presentation that Steve DiGiulio and others give related to, or if there are topics that I think have some legal implications, and I'll view those. And the point that Steve DiGiulio, who is the main presenter, has been making for several years now is that is a perspective which is kind of interesting because they host this conference that civil service is antiquated, and the protections for employees exist otherwise in other laws. And so he's actually apparently made efforts in the legislature to try to not have the requirement, at least for public safety, that civil service exists and otherwise. So it is kind of an interesting perspective for those that host this conference. But I think at the city of Seattle, the commitment is, as far as I know, very strong for civil service. It's in the charter. I haven't heard any talk about any changes related to that. So it's an additional and important right that employees can avail themselves to. In terms of the legal update, the focus wasn't so much on civil service at all. It was more on just kind of employment law. So I don't have much to add in terms of that because there wasn't anything that of note that jumped out to me.
Thank you, Joe. Sarah, would you like to say?
Yeah, it's very oriented to public safety. The first of the 2 days was around testing, service testing, what's that stand for? PST testing, public safety testing. And then we invited the county over here and we had a viewing party, so it's nice to connect with them and receive some updates.
And thank you both for attending. Next order of business. Again, Dr. Shelley, you have to add to the joint meeting next week.
Yeah, the joint meeting is going to be held on November 20th. Today is it the week after next?
Yes.
Yep, great. And the Public Safety Civil Service Commission will meet right after. So thank you in advance for your coming to the joint meeting. Participating. As I said, I will be sending out, hopefully today, it could be tomorrow, I'm not sure what my meeting schedule is this afternoon, a list of the items for vote or for a motion or motion practice, I guess.
Great. Have we made any considerations just in case a member can't be at the meeting when we go into executive session? Is there going to be access to
A phone. We usually just call them on speaker.
Sure. Okay, that was my question. Any other questions?
And Chair Caesar, just before you end the meeting,
Yes.
this is a great discussion about how to address the performance evaluation process. And I just want to reiterate, because you all heard this, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, in terms of the written communications or emails, otherwise, even discussions related to the commission, just like anything else. So if there's two of you members that are involved in those communications, you can provide information to each other, informational only through an email, for example, but just put informational purposes only, do not respond. And then the problem is if there is communication about that between more than one of you. So just don't respond, and then have the discussion and the consideration, at the meeting in an executive session. So there's not an exchange of communication about the particular item. It's informational only. Chair Williams?
Yeah, so
Or
procedurally.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes, procedurally, then for the future, if this meeting, for example, if the draft was prepared, then we could have gone into executive session in this meeting,
Yes.
have the conversation,
Mhm.
then you be able to go back and, or the chair, be able to go back with the other chair to finish,
I think so.
right?
Yes. Yeah. So again, the
So
key
it's
there is
just
that
something to think about
I
for the
feel,
future, just
yeah.
as part of the standard approach, then maybe being, just putting that as part of the expectation that by the November meeting, just in terms of timelines, building that in so that the chair, whoever the chairs are.
Yeah, or you can even
know
do it in
that.
October because.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm thinking.
October.
Maybe the timeline's a little rushed.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice to start a little bit earlier, so.
So that you have the perspective of the.
Because it puts a
whole
lot of pressure on the chairperson to come up with,
Mhm.
what to put in a performance evaluation if they're not getting input from other commissioners.
So I'd like to just offer that as a, part of
Because
the.
this has to be done by a certain time, I think.
I mean, it needs to be done by mid-December.
Mhm. Well, that seems like a good idea. I like that idea. I'll try to remember it next year.
So that's a similar concept to any of your meetings, commissioners, that staff does a really good job of preparing materials so you can consider those materials before the meeting. So when you come to the meeting, then you spend your time not just receiving information, but discussing that information so you can make decisions if you want to make decisions. So I think part of what happened last year is there was a lot of information provided in terms of having the document in the executive session without having it beforehand. So I take that's a good point, that to the extent that can be provided, information can be shared on an informational only purpose beforehand. And then when you get to the meeting in the executive session, then you've already seen it, you've already considered it, and then you can talk it through in a very productive way.
Mhm.
Yes, and I am happy to talk to anyone who would like to talk to me about my performance now, later, at any
As long as
point.
you do it one-on-one.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, but I will,
We understand it, Joe.
the feedback I can give
Yeah,
other
that's right.
commissioners is that to get a written document with no conversation, and I've already had a conversation with the chair, so that's really helpful. But if there's other information from other commissioners, I frankly don't want to receive it in an open public meeting. I'd rather have a conversation with you all.
Yeah.
So that's my need.
And commissioners, having the conversations with Andrea, that's totally appropriate and a good process. You just don't want to talk about what you talk to other commissioners about. So you wouldn't say, hey, I talked to Chair Caesar about this and this is what he said. So you wouldn't say that. You would just talk to Andrea about your perspective and get her perspective and so on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Mhm,
Any other
you're welcome.
questions for? No other questions? Okay, next order of business, I guess we have to have no other questions. We be adjourning.
Do we have any old and new business?
Oh,
No, I don't think so.
Sorry.
it's okay.
I wasn't sure if anyone had any old and new business.
Okay.
I didn't mean to rush the meeting. I actually pushed my.
Yes, you did.
I texted someone and told my, so we have more time now. I have more time now.
Do you have any other business? And it's all about you, Denise. What would you like to
It's
talk
all
about?
about me. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so we had adjournment. Motion for adjournment?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I second the motion.
This one moving and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. The time is now
11.
11:20,
11:23.
11:23.
Thank you all.
All right, I'd love to
Bye-bye.
get a group photo of us three.
Oh,
Well,